What's good, y'all? Today is August 3rd. Welcome to my previous week recap and our weekly analysis for our upcoming week. I believe this is my first I've done, so the way this is going to work is I'm going to go over through all the trades I took last week. We're going to go over them, explain to you guys why I took them, and then we'll look at the new schedule for this upcoming week, and I'll explain to you guys what I'm looking for in this next upcoming week. So, without further ado, I took one trade on Monday. I think it was July 28th. So let's jump right into it. So coming into the morning, what was I feeling? All right. Good morning, everyone. I am leaning bearish today. However, the NWOG is my condition. If we inverse that, I can expect previous day low. If we get a reaction after filling it with a possible SMT, we can look for longs towards these hourly unfilled for value gaps. So let's just take a look. This is what the 4-hour chart looked like right here is our NWOG. Wanted to fill it and then maybe continue higher because we were in a bullish trend. Here is what the hourly looked like, right? Coming down, we left an hourly unfilled right here. We left an hourly unfilled right here. We had London highs up here. I marked out here as a possible SMT area, and then we had a 30-minute unfilled for value gap right here. So I could have expect price to, well, what I was anticipating on was expecting price to come down, sweep out these areas, possible SMT here, and then reverse back up. And then here is what the 15-minute looked like, right? We're inside of this hourly for value gap along with another hourly unfilled above us, and same thing right here, right? So again, come down, sweep out this area, and then continue the trend higher. Why? Because this is what the 4-hour looked like, right? We're in a clear bullish structure on the 4-hour. So that was my thought process coming into this morning. So now let's go over the trade. So let's start on Z4-hour. So when price opened up at 10, what did we do? Well, we came right into this 4-hour for value gap, right? Come down to the hourly. What else did price do? Price came right into this 1-hour for value gap as well. So there is our high time frame confluences, right? And again, my draw was lower on the day. I wanted to fill the NWOG completely. So here's a nice continuation trend. Tap into the 4-hour, tap into the 1-hour. Now I'm just looking for middle time frame conditions and then a lower time frame entry model, which would be our inversion. So I'll drop down to the 15-minute. What is going to be our 15-minute or 5-minute condition? Well, as of right now, my condition was this SMT, right, inside of this hourly for value gap. So as soon as we tapped into this 4-hour and hourly for value gap, along with creating a bearish SMT, when we retraced up, what did we leave? Well, 15-minute, right? Top of the first candle to the bottom third. What is this? It's an unfilled for value gap. And what do we know about unfilled for value gaps? Well, price likes to seek those out. So this was going to be now my take profit area if I could find an entry off here. And then again, this is what ES looked like. ES was also in a very bearish structure at this point on the lower time frames. We had the SMT right here, and along with a 15-minute for value gap that got wicked into right here. So clear bearish structure, and we have a clear target below us. So now with the 4-hour, the 1-hour, the 15-minute SMT, all I'm looking for is literally just an inversion. Well, did we have anything on the 5-minute, right? Because what are we looking for? We're looking for 1 through 5 minutes. So no fair value gaps to inverse on the 5-minute. What about the 4-minute? Nothing on the 4-minute. Straight barcode on the 4-minute. Was there a 3-minute? Nope. No 3-minute for value gaps. Well, what do we end up getting? We end up getting an inversion of this 2-minute for value gap with this candle. However, price was way too premium for me, right? Because if I was to enter just off this 2-minute for value gap alone, well, look at the RR on this trade. It would be a 0.6. So what did I do? Well, I dropped down to the 1-minute after the inversion, and I set a limit order at this for value gap. So as soon as price retraced up, I got filled right here, right? Price danced into my stop loss a little bit. It is what it is. Right, stops at the SMT high. Why were my stops at the SMT high? Well, if my draw on liquidity was invalid, price would then push up above this, stopping me out and most likely continuing higher, right? Because we were already inside of the NWOG. So if we really wanted to react off of it, we could have just retraced back up, targeting maybe these like unfilled hourly gaps I showed you guys prior. Right, so that's why my stops were at the 15-minute SMT, because if that SMT was invalidated, then we would have just continued higher. So what do we get? We got a 2-minute version, limit order at the inversion. We get filled, stops at the swing highs, which was the SMT highs, and take profit to the unfilled 15-minute gap. And what did we end up getting? Well, dancing our stop loss a little bit, and then we ended up shitting the bed right towards the 15-minute gap. So that was the trade on Monday. I did go 1-0 on Monday. I took that one trade, got done at, what is this? At 10:21, and then I was off for the rest of the day. All right, moving on over to Tuesday, I took 2 trades. Both of them were break even. After I went break even on the second trade, I just got off. I didn't have my edge for the day. I guess my draw on liquidity was incorrect. So coming into the morning, I noticed we had this giant bearish SMT with all-time highs. However, I was still, here's what ES looked like. All right, did not take out this high right here. I was still bullish due to the fact that we were inside of this 1 hour for value gap, right? We're in a strong bullish structure on the hourly. This is what the 4 hour looked like, right? We're in a bullish structure on the 4 hour. Previous day, we came down, filled this NWOG, and continued higher. So overall, I was still bullish, even though we had that bearish SMT. Now, after I was done trading for the day, I realized that bearish SMT was the reason why I went break even twice a day. However, in my opinion, I still like the 2 trades I took. So without further ado, let's go over them. Regarding the first trade I took at, here, let's go to the 1 minute. First trade I entered at 10:08, and here was my confluences, right? So on the higher time frame confluences, we were still inside of this hourly fair value gap, right? We were still respecting it at that point. And then we also had an SMT at these lows down here, which were London lows. So come down to the 1 minute, right? We had an SMT with London lows right here. And then also, not only that, we had our middle time frame confluence, which was this 15-minute unfilled that we just tapped into. So now that we have the hourly, the 15-minute, the London SMT, what else did we get? Well, we also had an internal SMT right here, right? These 950 lows got swept out on NASDAQ, and these 950 lows did not get swept out on ES. So therefore, what was our target? Well, our target was these 1 minute equal highs right here, which it looks like they got swept out, but it's just this, and they did not get swept out, right? So these equal highs were still in place. So after we got the internal SMT, we got a 1 minute inversion right here. I entered off the 1 minute inversion stops at the SMT lows. My break even point was this essentially 1 minute fair value gap. The 1 minute fair value gap got tapped into, right? Here we go right here. Got tapped into with this candle, kind of rejected it, and then the next candle we inverted it. So at that point, my stops were at break even, and then what did price end up doing? Well, price ended up reversing and coming all the way down. So it was a W break even trade. Price still left these relatively equal highs up there. And then I took one more trade. What was our confluences regarding this trade? Well, it was still this hourly, because up until this point, again, this hourly was still getting respected. Same thing with the 15 minute. This 15 minute fair value gap was still getting respected, right? We did not inverse it yet. Sorry. Coming down to the lower time frames, we actually got the London sweep. So my thought process was, okay, maybe NASDAQ wanted to come take out London lows, and then go back up towards these relatively equal highs again. So after we got the hourly fair value gap, 15-minute fair value gap again, so same ones from the first trade. We also got a London sweep. So, okay, but now with the London sweep, what can we be looking for? Well, I got a 1 minute inversion to the upside with, right, we tapped London, V-shaped recovery, 1 minute inversion to the upside. I didn't enter off this candle. I was a little late with my entry. I looked up and price just took off. This next candle just ripped. So what I did is I set a limit order at the inversion. Price came down, hit my limit order, threw me in the trade. My break even point was this 1 minute high right here. As you can see, price danced in my stop loss a little bit. Go up. We're essentially just chopping, right? Not the best PA. I noticed that. That's why I put my break-even point right here, because I was like, all right, if we truly are bullish on the day, this 1 minute high getting swept out will not mean anything, right? Because essentially this is all LRL right here. All these highs have not been swept out. So once we take out all that LRL, move my stops to break-even. I move my stops to break-even. Next candle comes down into this 1 minute for value gap. I'm like, all right, if we respect it, we can assume these highs are going to get take. If we inverse this, well, I can expect to be stopped out at break even. What ended up happening? Next candle stopped me out at break even, and then we can see what price ended up doing, right? So again, another W break even. I was trying to go long, but I guess that what do you want to call it? The high time frame SMT, the bearish SMT, the the fucking all-time high SMT. It was going against us. What did price end up going to? Well, it ended up drawing towards this unfilled hourly, and then we ended up coming down here, taking out this liquidity, and I believe we took out Asian lows as well. Yeah, so we ended up coming down into this 4-hour fair value gap and also taking out Asian lows. So that was the draw for that day. I had the wrong draw on liquidity, so 2 trades, right? That's my rules. 2 trades max a day. If I lose my first one or go break even, I'll take another one. Same thing. If I lose or go break even, that'll be done. But again, if I win my first trade, then I'll be done. I'll be one and done for that day. So Tuesday, no bread to be made. Monday was a dub. Tuesday, 2 break evens, nothing. Let's go on over to Wednesday. All right, so moving on over to Wednesday, here was my daily bias, right? Good morning, everybody. Overall, I have a bearish bias, but I have draws going both ways, so I don't mind taking longs if the opportunity presents itself. I'm looking for one of 2 things. If we open high at market open, I'm looking to take out the 1-hour for value gap, and then we can look for shorts from there. If we open low at market open, take out all the sell side liquidity and London lows, I can potentially see a reversal to the unfilled 1-hour for value gap. If we start disrespecting bearish PD arrays, right? If we take longs, we will have 2 set conditions and wait for those conditions to get ran through or respected, right? Live trading starts at 9:30. Let's get this spread. So overall, I was bearish coming into this morning, right? Here's market open. Here's what it looked like. We had a 4-hour fair value gap right here that I have marked out in black. And then let's go down to the hourly. What else did we have? We had this hourly unfilled right here as well. So at market open, what I wanted to see was we are essentially accumulating right here. I wanted to see market open. We go into the fair value gaps, and then we can continue lower for our draw on liquidity, right? Target these lows down here, target these lows, all this liquidity right here. Well, what did we end up doing? Well, market opens. Let's see. We also had news at 8:30 this day. So market opened. We shit the bed towards London lows. We took out London lows and ended up reversing. No entry here, however. Couldn't find an entry back up to the upside. If I did, my take profit would have been this hourly unfilled, but no entry, right? But when we retrace back up, what did we end up doing? We ended up sweeping out these data highs, creating an SMT. Then we accumulated more. Trace back up higher, making a 1-hour SMT with this 7 a.m. high. Right, here is the 7 a.m. high. We take that out. This is what it looks like on ES. Right, 7 a.m. right here. And then at that point in time, this is what it looked like. Okay. So we had an SMT with the data at 8:30. We had an hourly SMT. We're also inside of a 4-hour bearish for value gap. So what I wanted to see from there is I wanted to see those SMTs get respected and then continue lower. So let's go to the 1 minute. Sorry. Well, we end up tanking to the downside. Couldn't find an entry. But these SMTs are still valid. What did I end up seeing? Well, we tapped into EQ of this range perfectly, and I wanted these market open lows as my draw. So after we tapped into equilibrium of the range, what did we end up doing? Well, we ended up inverting this 2-minute for value gap right here. However, again, price was way too premium for me because if I was to enter off the inversion alone, look at my RR on this trade, well, it would have been a 0.64 trade. So did not enter off that, right? What did I do? Well, what do I always do? I set a limit order back at the inversion, which, oh, I actually set it at this 1 minute giant bearish fair value gap. Limit order got tapped. And as you guys can see, I instantly got stopped out, right? Price was barely in any take profit area. If I was to enter this trade again, or if this trade was still valid, this would have been my break-even point, which was these relatively equal lows right here. I actually think these were equal lows, to be honest. Yeah, these were equal lows. So it actually kind of surprised me that price did not go back down and take these out before stopping me out. But this would have been my break-even point. As you guys can see, price ended up retracing up. Now, I could have done one of two things better. I could have just recognized price action, right? All this price action was terrible. However, I did like when we came up into EQ, we also took out all this LRL. So all in all, even though I lost, it wasn't a bad trade, but I could have recognized that we had an unfilled hourly above us still, and that price action just wasn't the best. However, I like the LRL sweep. These SMTs were still holding at that point in time. We had a 2-minute inversion to the downside. Actually, when I got tapped in right here, I left my limit order because we left these equal lows. So at least I was thinking, well, my break even gets hit, and if price decides to reverse from there, then so fucking be it. But price ended up just reversing, stopping me out. That was my only loss this week. Thursday and Friday, I took a dub. So with that being said, let's move right on over to Thursday. All right, so again, moving on over to Thursday, starting off with our bias. What was our bias? Bullish bias coming into this morning. What I'm anticipating is price retraces into the end dog, the purple box. Also sweeping out Asia low. From there, I can expect a bull run towards all-time highs and London highs. So this is what the 1 hour chart looked like, right? Price was right here, essentially accumulating. What I wanted to see is I wanted to see manipulation lower. Fill this end dog, which is a new day opening gap, right? And then reject towards this red line, which is all-time highs and London highs. And then again, this is what the 15-minute looked like. This was a 15-minute unfilled for value gap right here. This was also BPR, just in case we ran through all of this and we had a clear downtrend. We could use BPR as a take profit area, but that did not end up being the case. So let's go to the charts and let's see what price ended up doing. Well, let's see. Market opens right here. What do? We absolutely shit the bed, right? Doing exactly what I anticipated. We took out Asian lows. We filled the end dog. What did we also get? We got a 15-minute tap into this giant fair value gap. And what did we also get? Well, with these 15-minute lows right here, we got an SMT. So if we come on over to ES, here is the low right here. Not only do we have a low SMT, but we also have a fair value gap SMT, right? This fair value gap did not get tapped into. And on top of that, this end dog got fully filled on ES. So I was like, all right. ES did what it had to do. It filled those orders, right? Filled the void in the market. Now we can continue higher. So when we shit the bed down, what did we leave? Well, we left this 15-minute unfilled fair value gap. That was way the fuck up there. Oh, we can't see that. I'm just going to mark it in yellow. And what else did we leave on the 5-minute? Well, we left this 5-minute fair value gap as well. Okay, so the fair value gap, the entry point was actually marked right here. So now that we have the end dog filled, we swept out Asian lows, we have a 15-minute bullish fair value gap that we tapped into, and we have a 15-minute SMT. What was I looking for? Well, I was looking for a lower time frame inversion. And what did we end up getting? Well, let's see real quick. Was there a 2-minute? Nope, no 2-minute, right? Was there a 3-minute? No 3-minute, obviously. And then the 3-minute looks like that. The 4-minute is going to look like this. And then the 5-minute, same shit, just chop, chop. So our highest time frame inversion of this leg is going to be this 1-minute fair value gap right here. So what did we end up doing? We ended up running through that fair value gap with this 950 candle. However, again, if I entered off the inversion alone, look at this RR on this trade, 0.59. Again, it's like a 0.6 along with all the other ones. So what did I end up doing? I ended up setting a limit order right at the entry point to the inversion. Why? Because if you guys watch the inversion fair value gap video, you would know price likes to retrace back into those fair value gaps. And then instead of my RR, or not my RR, my fucking stops being at this swing low right here, I had it just below this candle, right? Because our last form of defense would have been this 1-minute fair value gap. So I had it right there. Again, due to RR reasons, this would have been a 1-to-1, which is fine with me. But if I had it at the swing low, it would have been a 0.83, which I do not want. So I put it right here. I thought it was a good spot just because we were getting protected by these two 1-minute bullish fair value gaps. Well, what ended up happening, I got tapped into this order. Price ripped up, actually edged my TP. I put my break-even point to these relatively equal highs right here. And then the very next candle, it ripped my TP, which was the unfilled 5-minute gap. I ended up banking around like $700 across like 13 accounts this day. So that was the best day of the week for me. Even though the trade wasn't that big, I went heavier risk due to the fact that I liked our draw and I liked what we did at market open and did exactly what I anticipated on doing. Again, starting with our bias, right? Bearish bias coming into this morning. What I expect to see happen is price manipulate higher at market open into the unfilled 1 hour and 15-minute fair value gap. And then from there, we can displace lower. So this is what the 4-hour chart looked like. We had, well, London and Asian right here. And then we had this unfilled 4-hour up here as well. this 1 hour, we had this unfilled 1 hour gap. Again, London and Asian are right here, and the unfilled 4 hours way up here. So what I want to see, we are accumulating, at least tap into this 1 hour and 15 minute and then continue lower. This is, again, what the 15 minute look like. Here's the 15 minute unfilled right here. There's also another 15 minute unfilled right above it. And then this is what the 5 minute chart looked like. So again, what I wanted to see was market open. We are accumulating. I wanted to see price manipulate higher into these general areas right here. Didn't have to sweep out these highs because those are way the fuck up there, right? If we're in a clear bearish market, I just want to see fair value gap taps and then rejections out of it. So I was anticipating price to manipulate higher at market open into this 15 minute and 1 hour and reject out of it. So with that being said, let's go to the charts. So here is Friday. As you guys can see, this is a 15 minute chart. As you guys can see, at market open, we ended up shitting the bed. What did we shit the bed into? Well, this was previous week low. What did we end up doing? We ended up tapping the previous week low perfectly. So what I wanted to see from here, if I wanted longs, I would have wanted to see this entire 15 minute fair value gap get ran through, and then maybe we retrace back into a 15 minute fair value gap bullish and then continue higher. Or if I wanted to see shorts, I would like to see like maybe like a 1 hour open up, right? Because if you guys come down to the 1 minute, this is what price looked like, right? It's not the best. Let's see, like price opened right here. Well, actually, here, price opened over here. Let's move it. Price opened right here, literally instantly shit the bed, but like not giant moves, right? And then kind of chopped around, took out the previous week low. And then when it retraced, I guess you can say, look at how price was moving. Like there's nothing going on here. There's nothing to the left. So what I did is I just stayed out the market. I actually wasn't going to trade this day. I ended up getting off the charts around like, I think it was like 11:15ish. But as you guys can see, I ended up taking a trade at 12:27. Why? Because I was at my computer and I seen an entry, and we'll go over that entry in a second. So up until this point, what do we got going on? Well, we're still respecting this 15 minute, but price is moving like absolute dog shit, right? So there's nothing really that I'm looking to target. That was what the 15 minute look like. What does the hourly look like? Well, what do we get on the hourly? We actually left an hourly bearish for value gap. So, okay, that can be good. Maybe I see a retracement up into here. We tap in this gap and we leave like maybe an unfilled for value gap right here that we can take profits at. That's my thought process. But again, I'm being very like patient because A, I already made up my mind that like I don't want to trade today. And B, just look at price. Price wasn't the best. But look at these moves right here. When we retraced up, what did we leave? Well, we left this 15 minute bearish or bullish for value gap that we can use as a take profit, and this 15 minute bullish for value gap that we can use as a take profit. So what did I end up doing? Well, I noticed price retraced into this hourly for value gap. So I was like, okay, I started maybe looking a little bit harder for an entry. And then I noticed this 15 minute SMT. Excuse me, this was not a 15 minute SMT. This was a 15 minute sweep of liquidity that I incorporated. But with that, I also wanted to see maybe an internal SMT happen. What did we get on the 5 minute? Well, what did we retrace into? We retraced into this unfilled 5 minute gap. So now I'm like, okay, maybe we have something cooking right here. So after we tapped into this unfilled 5 minute and the hourly, I wanted to see this 5 minute get ran through. Then we can use this unfilled 15 minute as a break even point and target this unfilled 15 minute down here, right? So this is what it would look like. I would want to see this 5 minute get ran through. But what did we end up doing? Well, we ended up kind of chopping around, respecting it a little bit. And boom. Now what do we get? Well, we get an internal SMT. This is what it looks like on the lower time frame. Right? These 1207 highs got swept out. And look at this right here. 1207 highs did not get swept out on ES. What did we end up getting right after the internal SMT inside of the hourly for value gap? Well, we got a 1 minute inversion to the downside. What did I do? I entered off the 1 minute inversion to the downside. Why? Because we had clear targets, right? We had two unfilled 15 minute gaps. We have an internal SMT. We tapped into a 1 hour bearish gap. We also filled a 5 minute discounted bearish gap. We swept out 15 minute liquidity. So it was looking like price was going our way. So here's the only thing I could have done better in this trade. My one and only take profit, because all I needed was $200 for a payout. Oh shit. My one and only take profit was 2. What the fuck? Let me click on this. was this gap work right here. And I actually had my stops not at the highs due to RR reasons. It was above this 1 minute BPR right here. So it was a 1.39 trade. I ended up getting out of the trade at this candle right here. So I was in it for about maybe 2.5, 3 minutes. But if you guys wanted to, you guys could have used this 15-minute for value gap as a break-even point and targeted this other 15-minute for value gap right here. And then let's see what price would have ended up doing if we did that. So at this point, we're break-even. Why? Because we tapped into this gap. Remember, I'm already out the trade. I took all my position off at this first 15-minute for value gap, but I'm saying hypothetically, if you guys wanted to, you could have. This is what you would have done. You would have went break-even after these lows got swept into this 15-minute for value gap. So now we're break-even. What does price do? Well, price retraces a little bit. Doesn't stop at our break-even point. Goes all the way down to this 15-minute for value gap. And then what did price end up doing actually? So I caught this in basically the first move to this entire leg. And what did price do? Well, price ended up shitting the entire bed. So if you guys watched my trade recap on Friday, you guys would have seen I missed out on $50-something thousand, which is true. So if I would have held it to this 15-minute, again, I have 13 accounts, so it would have been like 6,000 times 13, whatever that is. But I only ended up making, I think like $2,000 because I pulled out right here and I de-risked heavy. I didn't risk what I normally did. So it is what it is. It's not about the money. It's about the skill, right? Skill worked out in this scenario. So that was my trades for this week. I went, I believe, let's see, 1 win, 2 break evens, a loss. So at that point, I'm 1-1-2. Then I'm 2-1-2, 3-1. So I ended up finishing this week with 3 wins, 1 loss, and 2 break evens. So it was a solid week. I ended up making around $12,738 per, not per account, but in total per all my 13 accounts. So it was a pretty solid week. With that being said, let's go into Forex Factory and look at what's coming up for this next week. So Monday, we just have yellow folder at 10. So again, really just a no news Monday. Expect the markets to be choppy. I don't plan on being very risk heavy on Monday, just because I know on Mondays sometimes it's very choppy. And we made a giant fucking move on Friday, so that means Monday is most likely going to be again choppy. Tuesday. Regarding Tuesday, we have red folder at 10 a.m. We have PMI at 10 a.m. So perfect. Volatility will be brought to the market. However, I won't be taking a trade until after 10 a.m. I wanted to see 10 a.m. news come out. Hopefully we create an SMT with a data high or data low, and then we could take either long or short from there, depending on what the market is looking like. Moving on to Wednesday, same thing as Monday. There is going to be essentially no news. All this is yellow folder. Doesn't really mean much to me. There is FOMC yellow folder in the afternoon. So I don't expect Wednesday to be very beautiful. Okay? Expect shit on Wednesday. If you guys do enter, make sure you guys de-risk. Or if price is moving good, then you guys can obviously risk normal. Thursday, same thing as Tuesday. However, our red folder is at 8:30. So possibly a pre-market trade if the opportunity presents itself. But at market open, I am expecting either data lows or data highs to get swept out. Maybe create an SMT, and then again, we can go from there. I'm not worried about this 10 a.m. or any of this because it's yellow folder. I'm just worried about this unemployment claims on Thursday at 8:30. And then Fridays are typically slow. I actually just traded this Friday for the first time in, I think, 4 weeks. So the previous 3 weeks, I did not trade any Fridays. So I don't know if I'm going to trade Friday. Price on Fridays is typically the same as Mondays. It tends to just chop around, especially with no news on Friday. I don't expect much. But again, if the opportunity is there and it presents itself, I don't mind taking a trade. So with that being said, that'll be all. Thank you guys for watching my previous week, I guess, recap and my pre-week analysis. That will be the first of many. I'm going to start doing this every Sunday. I'm going to post this. It's going to be uploaded maybe around like 8:30. So regroup. If you guys took a losing trade last week, or if you guys had a losing week last week, regroup, right? New week ahead of us. So with that being said, I will be back in my Discord around like 9:15 tomorrow with a daily bias, and then I'll be trading at 9:30. So you guys have a great rest of your Sunday night. Regroup, regenerate yourself for Monday. We have I wouldn't even say a big week ahead of us, but we have a new week ahead of us. So let's make some fucking bread. I'll catch y'all boys tomorrow morning at 9:30.